This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Friday edition of Locked On Bets. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you as we take you through another edition of plenty of football, which we'll get to. We always appreciate you making Locked On Bets your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Busy Thursday, busy Friday. Obviously, Saturday's going to be huge. Sunday, a pair of games. We're going to talk about Notre Dame and Miami. They're hooking up at Hard Rock Stadium Sunday night. And a couple baseball games to get to, Lee. But first, let's begin with Friday night college football at Folsom Field.
Oh, boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
Year 3 of Deion Sanders as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, and he's improved them. There's no doubt about it. He just doesn't have his son Shedeur Sanders at quarterback anymore. He's moved on to the NFL, if you heard that. He went to Cleveland. But Georgia Tech, though, they travel out to Boulder. They're favored. Last year, they went to Dublin, Ireland. They were almost a double-digit dog and beat Florida State. So now how the tables have turned. They're favored here. The Yellow Jackets and the Buffaloes, Lee. What do you like?
Yes, so might be a little shocked, the casual fan, to see Georgia Tech a road favorite. But remember, the odds makers usually know what they're doing. So I think, we've talked about this off camera here quite a few times. We were shocked, both of us. Am I correct that Deion Sanders even returned? And we didn't even know for a long time that he was even sick, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that we didn't know. This is what I thought. If we're going to take a quick, if we're going to turn off for a second, that I thought Deion would have gone to the Cowboys. I really thought that he would have been the head coach of the Cowboys, that he went to Colorado. Now he can go to the NFL and go to the team that he won a Super Bowl with. But then it was the Jerry Jones is probably not going to have somebody in the spotlight ahead of him. He doesn't want that guy. That's why he doesn't hire any big names. But back to the original point, that I thought after his sons were gone from Colorado, I thought he's like, later, I'm out. And that wasn't the case. I'm actually surprised that he's returned for a third season.
I am too. And I don't honestly have a whole lot of respect for him as a person. I mean, it's not like he's done anything against the law or anything, but I think some of the stuff he does is a little clown-esque, but somehow, he's been able to piece together a winning program. But, he was away all spring. Now he comes back trying to piece together this team, and he's going to do it with a transfer quarterback. No surprise. Caden Salter comes over from Liberty. Nice addition here, but Caden's got no help. Offensive line wasn't very good last year. Not going to be great this year. They might be the strength of the team outside of Salter. All the running backs, top running backs are gone. All new wide receivers, and that was their strength last year besides his son. And I think they're going to struggle a whole lot on offense here. So on defense, I was looking this up. This is crazy. They played very few good offenses. And the only team that, it's not the same kind of offense, but the only team to run the ball with a running quarterback last year was Kansas State, and Kansas State beat them 31-28. This is a very unique offense here. And the quarterback, Haynes King, you're looking at his stats. You're like, okay, played like a little more than 3/4 of the year, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I'm impressed. 587 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. But he played 4 to 5 games with a really bad injured shoulder. He could barely throw the football. They even, in fact, when they were 3rd and long, in the middle of possessions, would put in the backup quarterback to throw the football. So 7-6 last year was Georgia Tech. They lost to Georgia in 8 overtimes, if you remember the game. Probably should have won the game quite a few times. But I think the public probably got off them. They were high on them after that game, how they played Georgia, because they lost to Vanderbilt in the bowl. We see that over and over again. The public and odds makers, a lot of times, they get off teams once they lose a bowl game. But bowl games are standalone games. I mean, a lot of these coaching staffs, and I'm hearing Georgia Tech's, their coaching staff was out recruiting. Whether they beat Vandy or not was not going to make that much a difference in the season. I think they were a little down after losing to Georgia. So I think the odds makers got it right here. They're laying 4.5 points. Colorado will put up a fight here. A little tougher at home, but like I said, I'm not impressed with the schedule. And I think Georgia Tech could end up being the second best team in the ACC behind Clemson. I'm going to lay the 4.5. Georgia Tech, 31-21.
For as much as people wanted to maybe dog Shedeur Sanders and all the things that he did last year, you got to think that him being gone, definitely a minus as far as it's not as, I don't want to say intimidating to go into Folsom Field, but you felt a different juice with him. It's one thing Dion is on the sidelines, but Dion's not playing in the game. But you would think now the change of quarterback, Salter, he was at Liberty, like you mentioned, and he played well at Liberty, but still now you're moving up to the Big 12. And I don't know, there's just something, it feels like it could be, maybe I'm wrong. We'll see, we have to see how it unfolds, but it feels like something is missing with this Colorado team. Like there just isn't that oomph anymore.
Yeah, and you know, they had some really good wide receivers. I mean, obviously, you know, they end up getting a top 5 draft pick. They had a bunch of other really good receivers. So you can't discount that. And they had like a little bit of a mojo, let's be honest, you know, except for Nebraska, which just punched them in the face. They fought back a little more than we expected. But maybe this is the year that, you know, things go south. And Georgia Tech is one of those teams and really tough, experienced quarterback. People forget Haynes King was a starter at Texas A&M, now a third-year starter at Georgia Tech. Very experienced kid, good coaching staff for Georgia Tech. They beat Miami last year, should have beaten Georgia. I like them a lot here. I think they're going to be an underdog team. And like I said, who knows? I think they could end up possibly being the ACC championship game, maybe make the playoff.
Yeah, Travis Hunter not being there kind of makes a difference too. When you have the Heisman Trophy winner who plays both sides of the ball, now gone. And we talked about Dion and the Cowboy connection. Transition to this, Lee, with the big news on Thursday of Micah Parsons getting traded from the Cowboys to the Packers. And Jerry Jones, it seemed like all along he was going to get it done. He got it done. He just traded him. And now Micah going to Green Bay, and the odds have shifted in Green Bay's favor to win the NFC.
Yeah. So, I mean, they were a 10-1 underdog. They were like the 5th or 6th choice. Now they're tied for second with Detroit, you know, just behind the world champion, Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. So they went from 10-1 to 6-1 with one player. I can't remember a defensive player that has changed the odds that much. I mean, since Lawrence Taylor, he might be the best player we've seen at that position. So he is a one-man wrecking crew, and I feel sorry for the Cowboys week 4. As soon as I see a prop, if it's 2.5 or under for sacks against the Cowboys in Dallas, the game 4 week on a Sunday night, I'm betting the over.
Yeah, so Green Bay goes to Dallas week 4. And obviously, that'll be all the talk going into that week. But even just looking, just quick thoughts on this. Going into week 1 at Philadelphia for the Cowboys, that you've had all this drama going on. We know the Dallas is drama every year. But now you would thought they would have just re-signed him and moved on. Now he's gone. So what does that mean for the Cowboys in week 1 against the Eagles?
Well, I mean, they got 2 first-rounders, but these could be late 20s. I mean, if, you know, it turns out Green Bay is as good as we think they are now, and you know, they got a good defensive tackle in Clark, but I just think the morale of the team has to be down. You know, I mean, here they're got to be talking. These kids all talk. Trust me. I've had NFL player friends, and the hotel the night before, you know, they go out, they get something to eat. You know, they're in their rooms and they're talking about things. This has got to be the topic of conversation, and they got to feel, hey, I'm just out for myself. I want to make as much as I can. Yeah, I'd like to win, and then I want to get out healthy, but they got to feel that Jerry Jones probably did them wrong. And problem is, you can't usually pay 3 star players that much money. You know, when you pay a quarterback above $50 million, it limits you through the rest of the team. They had to pay CeeDee Lamb. Maybe they felt, you know, I didn't look at their cap, but maybe they didn't felt they had enough for Micah.
And also, too, you can't be that thrilled with Brian Schottenheimer as the coach. It's not a big name. You think the Cowboys do better. But like I said before, I think Jerry tries to not get big names. He doesn't want anybody to overshadow him there in Dallas, since he is the owner, GM, president, everything, except for the head coach, but at least in title. Coming up, we will talk about Major League Baseball, a couple games on Friday. Also, we'll preview Sunday night's showdown at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami between the Hurricanes and the Fighting Irish. They know each other well over the years, so we're going to talk about that coming up as well as we roll on here, Locked On Bets. We've talked all week about it, and guess what? We're going to talk about it more today. FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And we know at the NFL, there's so many different options you have. You could pick the Super Bowl winner. You could pick the conference champion winners, division winners, MVPs. Lamar Jackson of the Ravens is the favorite. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes right behind him. But also there's games, too, you could bet on. Week 1, Cowboys, Eagles, Thursday night to kick things off. And then the Chargers and the Chiefs in Brazil. On Friday, you have Lions, Packers. The Sunday 425 matchup in Green Bay, Micah Parsons, new Packer now. And then Minnesota, Chicago to close things out on Monday. So you have plenty of different options in week 1 of the NFL, even if you want to do player props, same game parlays, so many choices at FanDuel. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com. Go there to place your first $5 bet. We continue here, Locked On Bets on this Friday, and we'll have another college football game to get to for Sunday night, Notre Dame and Miami in just a little bit. But let's go to the Diamond now with a couple of plays for Friday. And let's begin with a hidden gem.
To find a diamond in the rough, you need to dig a little deeper for those hidden gems.
The Detroit Tigers, off of a rough series in Sacramento against the A's, getting swept. And Detroit, they had a terrible start to the second half, and they played better. And then losing out to the A's 3 times, that's a little inexcusable. So now they go to Kansas City here. Big series with the Royals, and the Royals, who Lee had a couple nights ago as his winner against the White Sox, they're back at home now. And we're going to go with the Tigers' first 5 innings in this one as a short underdog on Friday night. Chris Paddock takes the mound for Detroit. He just beat Kansas City last week, 5 innings, 5 hits, and a run in a 4-2 victory over the Royals. But a couple numbers I want to throw out here. Seth Lugo of the Royals, 7-13-5 in the first 5 innings. So he has led 7 of 25 times this year through 5 innings. And how about this one, Lee? 10 matchups between Detroit and Kansas City. Tigers 7-1-2 in the first 5. So they've got off to good starts in these games. Let's go with LT, Greg. Let's go with the Tigers here. Motor City Kitties to lead the Royals after 5 coming up tonight in this big AL Central showdown.
Well, it looks like they're starting to get their mojo back a little bit. And it's a team that I think they're going to be tough to reckon with. And I think they realize got to get in some decent form right now heading into the playoffs. So it's a good time to get going and, got the right pitcher, right matchup. Let's win it after 5 innings, and I can turn it back and watch the rest of the football games.
A lot of teams, Lee, going into Friday that were that either, obviously pulled off a sweep or got swept. So it'll be interesting to see how the Giants fare after they swept the Cubs. Now they get the Orioles at home. You see how the Red Sox do against Paul Skeens, the Pirates at Fenway. So a lot of interesting games on Friday. One game that started a 4-game series, the Phillies, they just knock around the Braves on Thursday night. So they meet again at Citizens Bank Park in time for a total of the blowout.
Oh, boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
So 8 runs in the first inning between the Phillies and the Braves, 5-3 after 1. And Philadelphia ended up exploding for a rout over Atlanta. Kyle Schwarber, 4 home runs in the win for the Phillies, 49 in the season. So, Lee, we're going to see more fireworks, more runs at Citizens Bank Park on Friday?
Well, for our clients, we did have the over in that game. So that was one of the all-time great overs where you score 23 runs in a game. I mean, Atlanta wasn't horrible on offense. I mean, they scored 4 runs, but usually don't give up 19. So I think these two teams are ready to go. Even before that game, they had scored Atlanta 10, 11 runs against Miami. They had an off game. They scored 4 runs. I think they'll be back. They'll be ready to go. I think there's some bad blood between a couple guys there in Ranger Suarez. And, I think Atlanta can put up at least 4 or 5 runs. In Philadelphia, I mean, how do you pick against? How do you even consider an under after a guy hits 4 home runs, has 49 homers, 119 RBIs on the year? He could end up with 150 plus RBIs. Kyle Schwarber is red hot. The rest of the lineup's getting hot here. So these two teams in optimal conditions here. Bryce Elder's, 5-9 record, 6.12 ERA, giving up 20 home runs. I mean, he'll probably give up 2 in this game. Like I said, Ranger Suarez, he's decent, but of late hasn't pitched great the last month. Not as good as he pitched in the first couple months. So we're going to say blast off again here. And I'm going to over 9. I thought this line was going to open up like 10 or 10.5. So get it now, get it early before it rises to 9.5, 10 here. Another blowout special over 9 runs. Atlanta Braves and Philadelphia Phillies again.
The last 7 home games for the Phillies, 12-7, 6-4, 11-2, 5-4 loss to Washington, 6-4, 3-2, 19-4 over Atlanta on Thursday. So we've seen a lot of high-scoring games, and the Phillies have just gone deep a lot. Schwarber continues to have a fantastic season. And, again, you can't really knock it with the Phillies because they just get so automatic sometimes with their lineup.
Yeah, it's really good, top to bottom. So, Phillies, everyone's talking about some of these other teams. Phillies might be the team that ends up, going to the World Series.
Yeah, they definitely could out of the National League, and we'll see how far they go against the likes of the Dodgers and the Brewers coming up when we get to the playoffs. Coming up, we will talk about Miami and Notre Dame. Very big history between these two teams. A few years ago, Notre Dame got slapped down by Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll see if that happens again as we continue with Locked On Bets. Locked On Bets continues here on a Friday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling with you. And the Sunday night affair in college football. You have 2 games on Sunday, Virginia Tech and South Carolina, the Beamer Bowl early in the day, and then the late game, or I should say late game, the night game, Miami and Notre Dame at Hard Rock Stadium. The Fighting Irish is short favorite, and here is the lock of the day.
Open it, open it, open it! Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
All right, Lee, plenty of memories between Notre Dame and Miami over the years, going back to Jimmy Johnson in the 80s and Lou Holtz, and fast forward all these years, and they're still able to play each other. We've seen games up in South Bend, also games in Miami Gardens, but with all that being said, Carson Beck makes his debut at quarterback for the Canes, and Notre Dame off the national championship loss. What do you like here at the Irish and the Canes?
Well, let's step back and look at both teams from last year first. So Miami started off great, pounded Florida. Offense looked unstoppable, dynamic with Cam Ward, and defense looked good. And then they slowly went on a decline. Each and every week, it seemed like they finished up. They lose to Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech and lose at Syracuse. And they are on the outside. They were probably team 13 out of 12 playing to get into the championship. And they only have themselves to blame. They just had some injuries on defense and also just didn't make changes. And I think Mario Cristobal realized that he had to make a change at defensive coordinator. So what did he do? He brings in Corey Heatherman. Heatherman was the defensive coordinator for Minnesota last year, and with some very mediocre talent, they were a top 20 defense. So good season, getting close to the mountaintop after so many mediocre years, but not quite there. Also lost a lot of really good wide receivers. On the other side, Notre Dame, they start off the season, they beat Texas A&M and then lose to Northern Illinois, and they're off everyone's radar. They think they're done, But it turned out they didn't play a tough schedule. Look at the rest of the schedule. Didn't beat anyone really good. And they end up getting into the college football playoff. So what happened when they announced which side of the 12 teams, 6 on one side, 6 on the other? They got to have a really favorable matchup in the first round, get to face Indiana, and then got to face Georgia. And Georgia, Carson Beck was hurt, so that helped them in that game. Then they get to play Penn State, which was good, but not great. And then they eventually lost to Ohio State. So great year. They get to the final game, but were they the second best team? I could argue that they were probably 7th to 10th best. So not that much better than Miami. How did they do it? Great running back, Jeremiah Love, 1,125 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, brought in a transfer quarterback from Duke, was good. They're not going to go to the transfer portal this year. They're going to go with C.J. Carr. And you're like, oh, that name sounds familiar. Well, Lloyd Carr, former coach from Michigan, it's his grandson. I think eventually he's going to be good. But this is going to be his first game taking snaps in college football. That's going to be tough. So they're probably going to play it conservative. Weather's not going to be great, probably going to run a lot. And Miami not going to be as dynamic on offense. Carson Beck takes over, transferred from Georgia. He did not have a great year last year. I mean, he went into the season possibly by many pundits thinking he was going to be the guy that was going to end up maybe being the first round draft pick of one of the top 5 teams in the draft. Didn't turn out that way. His receivers dropped a lot of balls. I think most in college football. Offensive line wasn't great and didn't have great running back. So he ends up making a move. He had the surgery, comes back, looks like he's 100%. They'll have to do it differently with this Miami team. Young receivers who might be good eventually, but probably not right off the bat. Top 5 offensive line, top trio of 3 running backs who they'll interchange. So they're going to be more ball control. I think they're going to try to pound the ball against Notre Dame. A lot of people don't remember Notre Dame lost their nose tackle, off-season injury. I think he tore his pec. He'll be out for probably the first month. 2 decent-sized defensive tackles, but both defensive ends are small. Just a little under 240 and 250, and that's small for college football. And you think of them as having big defensive line, big linebackers. Not the case. They go with a 232-pound and a 234-pound linebacker. Miami's offensive line, 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen go 338 or larger. 2 offensive tackles are 6'6" and 6'9". These guys are mammoth here. So I think Miami's going to try to pound the ball. Crowd, I think, will be a factor. In fact, if you search YouTube, there was a couple different Notre Dame players who played in that game in 2017, which Miami won 41-8. They said it was probably the toughest venue that they played in college football. Now, you normally see like 20, 25,000 empty seats when you look at Hard Rock Stadium when Miami plays. But for big games, and I was at that game, wasn't quite as loud as the top 4 or 5 games that I saw in the Orange Bowl with the Dolphins or the University of Miami through the years, but it was probably 6th, 7th, that loud. It was absolutely deafening, and it affected the game. So I think it's going to be rocking. I'm here they're going to open up the tailgating like 8 hours beforehand. So they open it up before noon, and the game starts at 7:30. The place and the joint is going to be hopping. The crowd is going to be sauced up and ready to go. This is what they wait for. Catholics versus convicts. I don't think Miami's going to win big, but I think they're going to control the ball here enough. And I think they have the better quarterback, more experienced quarterback. And I like the addition of Corey Heatherman, the defensive coordinator. I just don't think on offense or defense, Notre Dame knows what to expect. Close, hard-fought game, but I think the wrong team's favored. Miami outright 23-20.
And what level is that lock that you have there, Lee?
Level 2 lock. Level 2 lock.
Level 2 lock. All right. See what happens with the Canes and the Fighting Irish coming up on Sunday night in Miami. Lee, before we head out into this college football week 1, what do you have going on at Paramount Sports?
Don't wait. One of our winners on Thursday night was South Florida, plus the points, and they took care of it, took care of Boise. I mean, I thought that they'd win, but They absolutely thrashed Boise, and it looked like they really missed Austin Genty. So we're seeing things correctly. Our biggest selection last weekend for our clients won also with Western Kentucky. So you want to get on board, you can get every single game through the end of September, 5 weeks, normally $597. Use coupon code SAVE100, just $497. If you want to try the player props, and these player props are college football player props, you get 3 to 5 a week. In NFL, 3 to 6. They're texted to you sometimes Fridays and Saturday nights, no later than Saturday and Sunday mornings by 9 in the morning Eastern. So that's just $597 for the season. So check out all the specials. Love to have you aboard. If you're looking to wager on games, I don't think there's anyone with a track record that's documented that can match ours. Just one place, ParamountSports.com.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Bets, as well as our podcast as well, which you could find on your favorite audio platform, Locked On Bets, and find both of us on X, Lee, Paramount Sports, myself at Rogers Picks. And we look forward to a very exciting weekend of Week 1 college football. And guess what next week is? Week 1 of the NFL. So we got that to talk about, and looking forward to all those games. For Lee Sterling, I am Kevin Rogers. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you coming up on Tuesday. We're off Monday, but back with you on Tuesday for another edition of Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.